Well, hello friends, and welcome to the Islands of Alola. Today I want to attempt a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Ultra Moon using only the Poison type. For those of you that have been around for a little while, you will know that the Poison type is my absolute favorite. I cannot wait to get into this run. Before we can start catching Pokemon and get this run officially underway, we have all of the early game stuff to do. And this is long-winded for those of you that don't know. This takes about 20 minutes, even with the speed up, before we can finally get to Route 1 to catch our actual starter, which happens to be a Spinarak on Route number 1. We nicknamed it Oak. It has a bold, plus defense, and minus attack nature. It's also level 2. So the early game grind does not even come close to ending with catching our first Pokemon. See, Oak here is a level 2 Spinarak that has Poison Sting, String Shot, and Constrict, which means grinding this thing out is going to take a feat here. String Shot really doesn't do anything. Most Pokemon resist Poison Sting, even though it is a stab move. It's very weak, and Constrict is also terrible. So a level 3 Caterpie cannot be defeated by a level 2 Spinarak. I don't know how I'm going to grind this thing up past level 2. I really don't want to do switch training, but we might have to. The other thing that's very scary is as we try to run away from Pokemon, we're not always going to be able to get away from them. So we might wipe before we even get started. After a couple of different attempts at beating Pokemon, I'm battling a wild level 3 Spinarak. We managed to defeat it. Our little spider is barely superior to that little spider, and that gains us a level. We are going to have to run back immediately to heal once again, but there is a path forward. I knew there was, we just had to figure it out. After an absolute ton of grinding, we finally get to level 10 with Oak here, only battling wild Spinaraks, which do give attack EVs. We can head back to the trainer school, even though it's technically Route 1, and catch ourselves Sumac, the Alolan Grimer. Has the Poison Touch ability. This Pokemon was phenomenal in our Dark Only run, so it is a great addition to the team, and luckily we don't have to do as much grinding. Totem stickers are going to play a very important role in this run. With 50 of them, we can trade them to Samson Oak for a Salazzle in Pokemon Ultra Moon. As a matter of fact, that is the exact reason why we're playing this and not Ultra Sun. In Ultra Sun, you get a Lurantis at level 30, we get a Salazzle at level 30 in this game, and this means we don't have to try to roll a Salandit, which are typically male. And the male ones, of course, don't evolve. This is going to give us a great addition to our team. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get the 50th totem stickers until we get to the 3rd island. So it's a little while out, but we need to start our grind as soon as possible. Speaking of grind, Team Skull, they're here to grind whatever that is. I love it. Don't stop. Team Skull threw me off. I was kind of just running around mashing the A button as fast as I could, and I got into a battle with Captain Lima. Normal types shouldn't be that difficult for us to deal with. However, I'm not leveled up and I did very minimal training on Sumac here, so unfortunately things are not going to go as well as I'd hoped. As a matter of fact, we are going to lose both of our Pokemons considering Captain Lima has a potion. We do get a lucky Poison Touch, but we're sitting at 2 low health, and Gumshoes takes us out, or Yungoos takes us out. This leaves Oak, and yeah, Oak sucks. I wish Spinarak was so much better because I truly love this Pokemon's design. It is an absolute favorite of mine, but it just... yeah. Attempt number 1, done. Upon resetting, this time we get a Lonely Spinarak that we still named Oak that's plus attack and minus defense. A little bit better and a little bit worse. I think the plus defense was a little more helpful, but the minus attack nature was less helpful, obviously. And this time, our Alolan Grimer I nicknamed Ivy because it's a female instead of male, and it has an adamant plus attack and minus special attack nature. Still with the Poison Touch ability, I think that's great. It changed from male to female, and as did I. I'm going to play with the female protagonist, which of course I've never done. I think it's going to be neat, and I look forward to all of the different things. The character clothing I mess around with. I don't know if people have noticed that in my runs, but I do try to gear my character towards the type that we are running. So we'll see what kind of poison type clothes we can get on our journey through the islands. For the second go around against Lima, we've done some training. Ivy was caught at a much lower level, so we did some EV training. We also have some held items, orange berries. Things are going to go a lot better now that we have a plan. The Leers from Young Goose is a bit concerning, but we get a critical hit with Bite to take it out after the second one. With Smeargle coming out, I know it's going to go for the stab tackle, so we're going to pivot into Oak to shake the defense drop. Oak didn't take that much damage, so barring a critical hit, we can stay in and fire off a Poison Sting. We get dropped to 6 HP. I'm fishing for a poison that we actually get. Very nice, Oak, you did something, yay! It's a pivot back into Ivy as Lima goes for a full heal, so that was a perfectly free switch. And now we take a tackle, do some damage with Bite, a potion heals it up, another Bite takes it low, we have to tank another tackle, never dead to a crit there, and we take it out. Very, very nice team. This gets us to Route 2, and technically there is an Island Scan Pokemon that we can get on Route 2 in Bulbasaur. I think our much better option, though, is to actually pick up the Ekans here, because it has the Intimidate ability. I think this is going to be far more useful, but I'm not saying that Bulbasaur isn't a great Pokemon. I'm just saying that the Island Scans are a pain, and as a matter of fact, when it comes to Island Scan Pokemon, I'm probably not going to catch any of them. We named the snake Sumac. It has a Calm, plus Special Defense, and minus Attack nature. Minus Attack is not great, but Intimidate is, so I'll take it. We find Hemlock, the Ghastly, in the Howley Cemetery with a Sassy, plus Special Defense, and minus Speed nature. Losing the Levitate ability when it turns into a Gengar is less than optimal, but I'll take it. Now, before you come at me in the comment section and saying, hey, you could have really screwed up your encounters because you can get a Zubat in the cemetery, you should have went to Beach Cave to get a Zubat. I know. I completely forgot when I was doing the run. I forgot where Beach Cave was. But I do know. As a matter of fact, just come at me anyway. It's good for the YouTube algorithm. As the Rattata comes out, I go for a Poison Gas to poison both of the Pokemon. We burn the Pecha Berry on the Totem Raticate, and now we are going to try to avoid the double up, which we do pretty nicely. A Tail Whip is great, Super Fang not so great, and we only poison the Totem Pokemon, which is a little bit annoying. I'm going to swap in Sumac here to get off the Intimidate drop for -1 on both of these Pokemon, and a Quick Attack Bite double up. We survive very nicely. Don't want to lose Sumac here, so we're going to swap into Oak, and Oak's job is to tank some damage, and then do damage, and burn as many poison turns as we can. The Ariados line is not great, and I have loved this Pokemon since Generation 2. I think it is the cutest little bug, but unfortunately, little feller, this is what you were born to do. Rack up some poison damage and be a sacrifice. At this point, I am going to bring Sumac back in for another double Intimidate to get the rats both down to -2. We're going to go for Poison Sting on the Rattata and let Raticate fall to poison damage. Bite takes us down to our Oran Berry. We get hit with a Tail Whip, which is a little bit annoying, and we fire off a Poison Sting as the Totem Raticate goes down. Hemlock obviously isn't going to see any screen time in this battle because we're Ghost and they're dark. It makes sense, right? As we get taken low to 5 HP from a quick attack, we miss our wrap, and so we swap back into Ivy, who is sitting at decent health. A Zubat in this battle probably would have helped a lot. Poison takes this thing pretty low, so a tackle takes us very little damage is what I'm trying to say. We took very little damage, and then we took it out with a bite. Jeez. As the saying goes, from death springs life. You will be missed, little one. Your sacrifice was not in vain. In the Verdant Cavern, we catch a Zubat named Zelbat. It has an Impish plus defense and minus special attack nature. Now, Zelbat here does not fit the name theme. This was named after a channel member. If you become a Journeyman tier member, you can nickname a Pokemon permanently as long as you are that member. If you become a apprentice tier member, you get early access to the videos, which you also get as a journeyman tier. It's just a couple of perks in the channel if you're interested. This is the generation where they changed Leech Life to be a base 80 power attack, and then they gave Zubat Absorb, a base 20 power attack, which I think is hilarious. It can learn Leech Life by level up, but there's a few changes that were made here in Gen 7 that I don't really like Hemlock not getting Levitate when it evolves into a Gengar, instead it gets Cursed Body. I don't think that's a good change. But it's best not to dwell on the past. Let's look to the future where we have our first technical third battle with Hal. We have a full team of poison types now to take on his Pokemon. Not a full team, you know what I mean. And we can do some serious damage. Zelbat is a great Pokemon, and whilst we take on our rival here, I would like your help taking on our rival known as the Algorithm. I need you guys' help to beat the Algorithm each and every week, and you have done a great job so far, but the job is never done. As the weeks come and go, so does the challenge. If you guys want to help us defeat the Algorithm, it's very, very simple. You can like the video, leave a comment, consider subscribing, hit the notification bell, or share this video with somebody you want to. Those, of course, are all of the free ways that don't cost anything but a fraction of your time. It is greatly appreciated. Your view is enough, though, however, and it is also greatly appreciated. As we mentioned moments ago, though, there is a couple other ways that you can support the channel by becoming a channel member if that's something you're interested in. Of course, none of this is mandatory, but it is greatly appreciated because without you guys, it would just be me sitting behind the mic talking to my wall. So thank you for your continued support. You guys are absolutely amazing. The Island Kahuna Hala is up next with his fighting types. He leads Machop and I lead Hemlock. Now the only Pokemon that can do any damage to Hemlock is the Crabrawler in the back, so I anticipate a swap here swapping into Zelbat, and I read it correctly. Crabrawler has Pursuit. It's a very weak ghost type move, but it doubles in power if we try to swap out, and it would definitely OHKO Hemlock. Zelbat's going to stay in, though, tank a little bit of damage and a couple of Leers before firing off 3 wing attacks to take out the Crabrawler. After the Crabrawler goes down, the Makuhita and the Machop, as I said before, have nothing against Hemlock, so it's a swap into Hemlock, and we will click Nightshade till these Pokemon go away. Now, what I forgot as we swap is Makuhita has Sand Attack, and that's going to make things very, very annoying for us. Throwing a little pocket sand in my ghost face is rude, to say the least. As a matter of fact, does Makuhita actually have pockets? And how would he get it out with his gloved hands? And it looks like he's spitting it at us, so maybe it's cheek sand? But then it would be wet. So I really don't know what's going on. That would just be a ground type move at that point, right? Let's better not to dive into the in and outs of Pokemon in that manner. As a matter of fact, when the Machop comes out, we switch up our strategy to go for Curse because our accuracy is so low. Curse is going to do a quarter of its health every turn. We're going to try to go for Nightshade to help speed this thing along, but we actually never connect with a single Nightshade because of the Sand Attack. So 5 Curses is what it takes to take out the Machop. Must have an odd number of health. And, of course, we never take any damage, and that is the Island Kahuna Hala defeated. At this point, we get access to Mantine Surf, and I've used it in my previous runs, but not in the extent that we're going to use it in this run. You can get points from doing the different tricks, and those points translate into battle points on the different beaches, and the BP or beach points, battle points, whatever. You can use those to get different items, different moves, things like that. We've used this before, but as I said, in this run, we're going to really, really use it. It's great, and I also think this is a very fun little mini game to play. As a matter of fact, this is future me talking, the voiceover guy. I had so much fun just turning on a YouTube video. I watch a lot of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Purity Forest attempts, and I just played this. It's so much fun. So it's going to be exciting to go through back and forth to the different islands and really use this to its full potential. We can get access to some great items like the berry juice and of course the effort value vitamins. The vitamins, you can give 10 of them to a Pokemon because they give 10 EVs to a specific stat. So we can get 100 effort values for just a few battle points instead of doing the grinding. 20 battle points is going to be easy to grind, considering EV training in the wild. Now, some of the different things that we can do is like get Giga Drain for Hemlock, and there are a bunch of different moves that we can get on this beach, the one on Akala Island, Ula Ula. We can't get to the one on Pony Island, that's a post-game thing, but we've got some great options here. So I'm going to spend some time in the Pokemon database doing some research on these different Pokemon instead of guessing and checking, and we're going to really get our team set up for the future. We did quite a bit of preparation for the battle with Hao in Paniola Town, like getting Fire Punch on Ivy to take on the Dartrix. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite do half after we tank a very weak Razor Leaf, and then if Breakneck Blitz Z move had crit, it would have definitely one-shot us almost perfectly. We get taken from 48 HP to 24 HP. Never punished. Fire Punch takes Dartrix low. We can't outspeed it because Alolan Grimer is a very slow Pokemon. It's very bulky though, and in my Dark-type run I gained a very big appreciation for the Pokemon. No matter, Zelbat can come and clean up with a stab super effective wing attack. This of course brings in the Pikachu, so we're going to pivot once again into Sumac. Sumac is going to get off the Intimidate. That does not matter. We're going to tank the Quick Attack. Thought that would be an Electro Ball. That was very random. We then tank an Electro Ball, and I was trying to paralyze this thing with Glare, but you can't. See, there's changes I just don't know. No matter, we do a little bit of chip, and then we have to swap. Despite all of our preparation, we're still sitting with half of our team at below half health. We take Electro Balls much nicer with the Ghastly and do some serious damage with Nightshade, getting taken to 13 HP before taking the Pikachu out. I did forget to put berries on Pokemon. I have berry juice sitting in my bag. The Poison Fang addition to Ivy is going to be great, and unfortunately poison types are not known for their great attacking capabilities, so we have to do what poison types do best. They poison, they stall. I'm not quite at that point where we can do that tactic, but very, very soon we are going to be. And though I don't want to do those kinds of tactics, it's what they do best. So we're going to have to heal, we're going to have to confuse, we're going to have to poison, and stall the opponents out. At this point though, Zelbat just did some serious damage to the Noibat because it's a pretty weak Pokemon, and then as the EV comes out, we can immediately pivot back into Hemlock, and we're free to take out the rest of Hao here. And we make it through this one pretty easily, also deathless, but things are not going to get easier for us. Running full steam ahead and not paying attention, we have to battle Gladion. Sumac is still paralyzed from a previous battle, but we get a paralysis on the Zubat that's not actually a Zubat. Now I'm going to swap into my Zubat and take out the non-Zubat after a feint attack, proving it's not a Zubat. It is in fact a Zorua with a couple of wing attacks. It is paralyzed, which is great, so we can take it out. I did think about healing for just a second, but our Zubat is a good Zubat and has been changed, so as the other Zubat comes out, and this is a hilarious spazzy battle all sped up, we do wing attack, it hits us with wing attack, we do a bunch more damage and ultimately take it out, sitting on 13 HP. Type Null comes out, his last Pokemon. I swap into Sumac to get the Intimidate drop, tank a Tackle. We're going to have to tank a second one, risking a crit here, but I want to go for a Glare to paralyze this damn thing, and then swap back into Ivy. I'm not going to bring Hemlock in this battle because I believe Type Null has Bite, so we're dead to a single Bite, and this is just a battle of attrition. Acid Spray is probably not the best option here, but it does get a special defense drop, so we're going to do more damage over time. Again, like I said, it's just a battle of attrition going back and forth to take this Pokemon out. And yeah, it didn't take that long for us to take it down. Now, Totem Araquanid in the rain with the water bubble ability is scary. It is never going to go for stab bug bite because of our poison types, and it does have bite for coverage, so leading with Hemlock is a very stupid choice. But it's the only one I have. With a berry juice equipped, we can get off a curse, taking ourselves down to half HP, putting a curse on the Araquanid, and healing up almost to full with that. A critical hit bite would have taken us out, but losing Hemlock here would have been fine. The battle would have continued, or the run would have continued, and it did exactly what it needed to do. Going for Protect now, we have the stall strategy in our pockets. We can do some serious damage with Curse. Now it's just a swap around to get this thing as low as we can, taking as minimal damage as we can. Bubble is very scary, being stab, rain boosted, and water bubble boosted as I mentioned, so we're not out of the woods just yet. We take serious damage, holy, from a bubble, but berry juice keeps us healthy before poison actually gets the poison. Very nice. Curse, poison, it all takes Araquanid down, and that is how poison types roll. We almost lost Ivy here in this battle as well. We're not going to learn minimize. I'm stepping on my words very badly in this voiceover, so I do apologize. It's a swap into Zelbat. We heal up with a berry juice, and then we fire off a stab super effective wing attack to take it out. Very nice. Zelbat really coming in clutch in the clutch moments. With the Araquanid taken out, we have access to 2 more encounters, starting out with a Tentacool named Oleander with a bashful neutral nature. It was found at the Brooklet Hill in the same area we just battled the Araquanid. With the Clear Body ability, that's great. Now the next encounter is a little bit tricky. The first thing that we had to do was make sure it was nighttime, backtrack a little bit, and find the bubble columns where we could fish, and at a 20% chance we can find Corsola. It's a 5% chance during the day. From here, we need it to call its ally Pokemon. Once it calls its ally Pokemon, we can KO the Corsola and catch it, but I've never heard of a Marini before, and this is a very roundabout way to get a Pokemon. No matter though, it is another addition to the team. So let's meet Monkshood, the Marini that we got in the Melee Sea, with a Adamant plus attack and minus special attack nature. The nature is not great, but the Merciless ability is. The Pokemon's attacks become critical hits if the target is poisoned. That is something we are definitely going to play around with. Before our next trial, we have a couple of evolutions. First off is Sumac evolving from an Ekans into an Arbok, quickly becoming a great Pokemon. And then of course my favorite, Zelbat, is evolving from a Zubat into a Golbat. I love this Pokemon so much. Now the BP, battle points, beach points, whatever you want to call them, that you can get out on the beaches, they also work here in Royal Avenue. So we can get rare candies, we can get all kinds of things. As a matter of fact, there's a bunch of different held items that we can get our hands on, like the power items for EV training, making our EV training that much more. And the most important thing, of course, is this lady, where we can get our hands on things like leftovers, wise glasses, expert belt, zoom lens. Yeah. I really didn't understand how busted this was when I was playing my other runs, but I want 6 of these. I can only get 3, but we'll get 6 of them eventually. Now, the Totem Marowak has always been a problem for me to deal with because of Detect. The moveset that it has, this is always a very difficult battle, like Detect on turn 1. It calls its ally Pokemon, which is a Salazzle. I'm just going to go for a Water Pulse against it to do as much damage as we can, and we get a Lucky Confuse. Unfortunately, it still breaks through it to hit us with a Torment. We also get hit with a Hex. Now here, I had a couple of different options. I could have went for Acid Spray, but I really didn't want to take out the Salazzle just yet. I didn't want to try to go for Supersonic in case Marowak went for Detect, so ultimately what I decided to do is swap. It's time to bring in Sumac to get the Intimidate drop off, which is great. Marowak does in fact go for Detect, and Salazzle hits us with a Flame Burst because it's not going to hurt itself in Confusion. From here, I can try to go for a Crunch, which connects, doing a decent little bit of damage and getting the defense drop. We get tagged with a Torment and hit with a Flame Wheel. If they had doubled up attacks there, we would have lost Sumac, but we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to move forward. Let's not dwell in the past. Monk's Hood comes out, and unfortunately this Pokemon is not the defensive tank that it is going to become when it becomes a Toxapeck, but it still tanks a double up very nicely because we resist the fire type moves. I know we can survive 2 non-critical hits here, so I stay in, tanking both of them at 11 HP, and not quite taking out the Salazzle with a bite. I don't know when Marowak's going to go for another Detect, so I'm trying to play around that the best I can, but it is very difficult. Venoshock doesn't do much to us, and Hex does even less. I anticipate the Detect here, so I'm going to take out the Salazzle, which I typically don't like to do. There's the Detect like I thought it would. We get hit with a Flame Burst to 15 HP, but we take out the Salazzle. I don't want Marowak to call its next ally, so it's always a dangerous game. I'm going to go ahead and swap here, and what better Pokemon to bring in than Zelbat. Zelbat, with the Speed EV investment that we've done, actually outspeeds the Marowak. So we tank a Flame Wheel, we hit it with a bite, then we get hit with another Flame Wheel, and then we take it out with one more bite. Tripped over that one just a little bit, but we made it through both the battle and the voiceover. And look at Golbat just shining at the end of the battle once again. And with a couple of level bumps in the level cap, Golbat of course evolves into a Crobat, which is my favorite Pokemon. The evolution of Zelbat was perfectly timed for the next totem battle, Lurantis. Now Lurantis has nothing it can do against us with Solar Blade, X-Scissor, nothing. Unfortunately for us, it's probably going to call the ally Comfey, and it's going to boost its defense with Flower Shield. And then stall us out with Synthesis. We do have 20 power points of cross poison though, so we can do this back and forth. We can tank the moves, we have Roost to keep ourselves healthy, and really this is just 3.5 minutes of back and forth, with Comfey healing Lurantis, going for Flower Shield to boost its defense, Synthesis to help keep it healthy. It's just annoying. Let's skip ahead. Ultimately what happens is Lurantis goes for one final Synthesis, healing itself up, and we get a critical hit with Cross Poison to take it out. That is beautiful, and that took forever. At this point, Comfey can't do anything, going for a Magical Leaf that is double resisted, and Cross Poison one-shots. That is quite a few totems in a row that Zelbat has been at the end of, coming in clutch. Oh yeah, Hemlock gets an evolution, going from Ghastly to Haunter at this point. It loses Levitate after this, but we're going to still evolve it, or trade it, quote-unquote, into a Gengar that gets Cursed Body instead of Levitate. Really, I don't understand what the decision here was, and honestly, with the IVs of this Pokemon, it's not that great. I'm sorry, I really love you, Hemlock, but your days are numbered. And speaking of numbers, I should call her. I really should. Now listen, the Island Kahuna Olivia is up next, and I've talked a lot about Jasmine and the things that I would do for her going to the ends of the Pokemon universe. But dude, Olivia? I'm just saying. The play here is to use Toxic Spikes. I want to get up 2 layers of those to poison all of her incoming Pokemon, whilst keeping ourselves healthy with leftovers and Protect. We're then going to poison the Anorith and then swap out. Unfortunately for us, once again, Monk's Hood is not that big of a bulky Pokemon. Not yet, at least. And so we do have to risk a crit here as we go for the Toxic. And we stay alive at 15 HP. We also get off the Toxic, but this was all for naught. I should have stayed in. I didn't realize that Olivia had a full heal. So I'm going to swap, and she, of course, is going to go for a full heal. So there goes the poison. I am going to go for a Bubble Beam here. We're actually outsped, and Smackdown does a ton of damage. We don't quite knock out the Anorith, and Olivia does have a Super Potion. We're not going to knock this thing out unless we get a speed drop from Bubble Beam. One more Bubble Beam takes it once again very low, but not quite out. So, now we have to swap again. Another Pokemon gets to take a little bit of needless damage before we can make this battle go. Stall tactics is how these poison type runs should go. If you don't do the stall tactics, the battles are going to drag on. with the stall tactics, the battles are going to drag on. You're going to have a very long run with poison type Pokemon. Now, as the Lycanroc comes out, I go for Protect. I thought maybe it would use its Z move, but instead it's going for Bite, which makes more sense. As a matter of fact, Lycanroc typically doesn't go for its Z move because it's off a Rock Tomb that is only seen as speed control. Going for a Bulldoze here with Sumac is probably pretty reckless, but you know, you can't win them all. With the speed advantage here, even if it was going to go for its Z move, we take it out because of the toxic damage stack up. And as I said, Sumac is quickly becoming a great Pokemon on the team. A lot of versatility. The last Pokemon is Lileep, and it gets poisoned on the swap in. This thing doesn't really have much it can do against the team. I'm going to swap Hemlock back in. We get hit with an Ancient Power that gets a critical hit. That's very, very annoying. I wanted Hemlock in here to go for Venoshock because of the poison. We go for a Protect to do a little bit of healing. Leftovers, getting them this early in the game, it's just insane. We survive another critical hit, Ancient Power, and Lileep falls to the poison damage. With the level cap of 33 now, Oleander evolves from a Tentacool to a Tentacruel. And you guys know this is a great Pokemon. In Melee City, we pick up a Trubbish named Hogweed. It has a modest plus special attack minus attack nature. I'm showing it off because we caught it. Chances are I'm not going to use this Pokemon. It does have Sticky Hold, which doesn't really matter for this run. I'm sorry, Trubbish. I really do like you, though. The more important thing to happen here in Melee City is we get our 50th Totem sticker, which means Samson Oak wants to give us a couple of different Totem Pokemon. And that Pokemon is Nightshade the Salazzle with a quirky neutral nature. I'm so excited to use this Pokemon. Getting it on the team right before we take on the next trial is amazing, and Corrosion can poison Steel type or Poison type Pokemon. That is an absolute menace of an ability. Having Corrosion and poisoning a Golbat is just insane. Who thinks of these things? This is absolutely amazing. I am 100% for this. This is great. Strategies are now going to change and evolve with this newfound ability. Bye-bye, Golbat. You died of poison damage. Gaining a Fire-type Pokemon right before taking on Totem Togedemaru with its Steel typing was the whole reason and the whole plan from the beginning. But Corrosion as our ability changes my plans ever so slightly because I'm going to go for a Toxic turn 1 instead of Flame Burst. This is going to take out the Togedemaru eventually. Poisoning a Steel type is still unfathomable for me, but we did it. Zingzap is a little bit annoying, and it calls its allied Pokemon Skarmory. I do not want to lose Nightshade at this point, so we're just going to go for a Protect to stall out a turn, and then we're of course going to swap. Zingzap is annoying. Tailwind, that is also annoying. None of my Pokemon are very speedy outside of Zelbat, so the Tailwind doesn't really matter. Zelbat's not going to come into this battle because Togedemaru. Intimidate cuts the attack of both Skarmory and Togedemaru, so Zingzap does a little bit of damage, and then Torment is very, very finicky and annoying. I do try to go for a Glare against the Skarmory, but Zingzap connects and flinches us. So after the Skarmory sets up a Stealth Rock, I need to swap. Need to get something out here that can do some damage. Togedemaru heals up from a Berry just a little bit, and I'm going to bring in Ivy. Ivy has been such a great Pokemon. It's got a long way to go. Very, very bulky. We tank the Iron Head very nicely. Steel Wing misses, which is great. We have Fire Punch to do some super effective damage. So I'm going to focus my attacks on Skarmory because the Togedemaru is going to go down in the next hit. We get flinched. Of course we do. Steel Wing misses, which is really nice, and Togedemaru goes down. So now we only have to deal with the allied Pokemon, and we're going to do what poison types do. Stall. We're going to heal up just a little bit with leftovers. I don't know how much damage Steel Wing is going to do, and I don't want to find out for as long as we possibly can. Steel Wing misses. Fire Punch doesn't quite do half, so it's going to be a 3-shot. We go for Protect to waste more turns, wasting more of my time, but Torment, Protect Against, was actually really good. Now we can fire off another Fire Punch after we get hit with a very, very weak Steel Wing. Seeing the damage that it did, I'm not going to go for Protect, I'm going to go for the kill, and Steel Wing misses. So we win. Great job, Ivy. We have our first battle with the big bad boss of Team Skull, Guzma, who leads with his Golisopod. I lead Sumac to get off an Intimidate drop, and then go for Rock Tomb, which does a decent amount of damage and gets the speed drop. Then we get hit with Razor Shell that would have KO'd if it had crit. Holy, that did a lot of damage. No matter, Rock Tomb connects and we activate its emergency exit, bringing out the Masquerain. I wanted Sumac in to do quad super effective damage with Rock Tomb here, but I don't outspeed this Pokemon, so I need to switch. But into who? Ultimately, I decide to bring in Zelbat with Stab super effective wing attack, but we cannot tank an Air Slash. Crit would have KO'd Zelbat. That's 2 Pokemon potentially dead in this battle. A U-turn out because we can't stay in, and I bring in Nightshade. Nightshade is number 3 that would have gone down to a critical hit. Well, this is not going great. Who can tank the damage? Oleander? Absolutely. Oleander is a beast. We tank the Air Slash very nicely, and from here I decide to go for an Acid Spray. Acid Spray is going to lower its special defense, so we should be able to take it out with a Venoshock, and it goes for Icy Wind. Why? I don't understand. It really did throw me off. Venoshock takes out the Masquerain, but that was very, very odd. Golisopod comes back out, and I forgot that Golisopod has Sucker Punch, so I click Venoshock, and we get hit with a Sucker Punch down to 27 HP. That's Pokemon number 4. Can't stay in with Sucker Punch, so we're going to swap into Ivy. Hemlock can't swap in. Hemlock has not had a great matchup in a while, and honestly, it's coming off the team as soon as I can take it off the team. Figured this Pokemon is not going to go for a other move other than Sucker Punch. I clicked Poison Fang, but it went for Razor Shell that would have taken us out, so that is 5 of 6 Pokemon that almost died in this battle. The battle with Totem Mimikyu is another one that I have a little bit of a plan for, but ultimately, flawless plans without flaws have flaws. We get the Intimidate off. We got to break its disguise after tanking a Shadow Claw, which we can do with Bulldoze to gain the speed advantage as well. All going according to plan. Now it calls its ally Pokemon Banette, and I'm going to swap. But as I go to swap into Nightshade, I remember that Mimikyu has a held Lumberry. So coming out and poisoning the Pokemon isn't going to work unless we poison it twice. So ultimately, as I swap into a Shadow Claw doing decent damage and a Mist Will-O-Wisp, I decide to go for a Flame Burst, and it was stupid to go for anything. I should have swapped out immediately as we get hit with a Shadow Claw and then a Curse. Luckily, the leftovers bring us to 26 HP because Curse does 25. 1 HP, Nightshade. Oh my goodness. Sumac comes in on another Intimidate drop for both Pokemon, so Shadow Claw does minimal damage and so does Feint Attack. We're sitting at 18 HP. Gotta swap again. To who? Who are we going to swap into? We are slowly losing Pokemon. I ultimately decide to bring in Ivy, who's a pretty bulky Pokemon, with the -2 to attack. We should be tanking very little damage from Mimikyu and -1 from Banette, the very same thing. From here, I can actually take out the Banette with a Crunch. After we get burned, that's what I was hoping wouldn't happen, but no matter, the Banette goes down. I don't want Mimikyu to call its other ally Pokemon so that we don't have to battle 3 Pokemon, but this is one of those times where we have to chance it. We get the poison from Poison Touch, getting rid of its Lumberry. Unfortunately, I don't have access to Toxic yet. Ivy's sitting too low with a burn, so I need to swap somebody in, and who? Oleander? Zelbat? Hemlock? Who? Ultimately, I decide to bring in Hemlock, and Mimikyu is a Ghost Fairy type. This isn't a great matchup for us. I could easily lose Hemlock here. But Hemlock hasn't had a lot of good matchups as we come out on a play rough. I should probably just let Hemlock go and replace it with something else. But I have a hard time letting some of these Pokemon go. So as we fire off a Shadow Ball and tank a Shadow Claw, Mimikyu calls its ally Pokemon Jellicent. I can't survive this double up and I can't let Hemlock go, so I swap in Oleander. Oleander comes on a Shadow Claw that tanks very nicely, and Water Pulse that doesn't do anything. From here, we can outspeed and take out the Mimikyu with a Bubble Beam, and this just leaves the Jellicent. But Venoshock is resisted, and Bubble Beam is resisted. Toxic Spikes isn't going to do anything for us, and Icy Wind is also resisted. Nightshade does set damage, so we can only take one more attack. I really don't know what to do here. We're just going to fire off attacks and do as much damage as we can. Spite is great, as a matter of fact, I will take it. I still have one healthy Pokemon in the back, so we should be able to get through this battle. We take Jellicent down to about a third of its health, or a third taken rather, and we swap into Zelbat. Come on, buddy. You're my only hope. From here, I decide to go for Cross Poison. It does more damage, has a high crit chance, and can poison. It's also stab. It gets disabled because of Cursed Body, which is the best option. If it had crit, it would have been perfect. From here, Wing Attack takes out the Jellicent, and that is another totem battle that Zelbat clutched out for us. Probably one of the most important evolutions on our teams happens right now with Monk's Hood evolving into a Toxapeck, becoming a defensive tank. And speaking of defense, Ivy also evolves from a Alolan Grimer into an Alolan Muck, and those two Pokemon, Monk's Hood and Ivy, have just been amazing. We have another battle with Guzma in Po Town, and here we're going to show off just how good of a stall Pokemon Monk's Hood is. We learned Baneful Bunker upon evolution, which is its signature move. It's like Protect. If we get hit with a contact move, it will poison the foe. We didn't show it there because Golisopod's going for Sucker Punch, so we poison it with Toxic, and we're just going to stall this thing out. With a moveset of Venoshock, Baneful Bunker, Recover, and Toxic, and with our special defense and defense as high as it is, this is the epitome of Poison Stall. And that's all we're going to do. We're going to drain its Sucker Punch power points as well. Eventually, the toxic damage is going to take Golisopod low enough that Emergency Exit activates, and out comes Pinsir. Here I'll show off how Baneful Bunker works, going for it as it goes for a Throat Chop, which ultimately poisons it. Pretty self-explanatory. With the Merciless ability, we do critical hit damage with Venoshock, so we are just a monster of an attack Pokemon as well. It's crazy to think that this thing has a great defense, but also a great offense. Pinsir goes down in 2 shots, and out comes Masquerain. Now, I should have gone for Recover here turn 1, but I wanted to get this thing poisoned as quickly as possible, so we tank the Air Slash and go for Toxic. Again, should have gone for Recover because we'd be sitting at more health. We can go for the Baneful Bunker though, Protect, and gain a little bit of health with the lefties. But here's where things get a little bit risky. I should not have done this. I should not have stayed in going for Recover. I should have just swapped out because we're sitting at 7 HP before the Recover. We're risking a lot of things, but no risk, no reward. Air Slash takes us down to 29 HP, and we use Recover. Air Slash can also flinch us, which is very scary. The Masquerain is going down pretty nicely. I decide to go for a Protect as it goes for an Air Slash. Toxic damage doesn't quite take it out. So I decide to click Recover so we can recover most of the damage dealt from Air Slash, and as I said moments ago, we can get flinched. So, yeah. That whole battle sequence was very risky, but I was locked in to Monk's Hood doing some damage here. Golisopod comes back out. I should have just gone for Venoshock, but I decided to swap. I wanted to bring somebody else in. I was a little bit worried about losing that Pokemon after what happened, and Razor Shell, if it had crit, would have taken out Zelbat. This Pokemon has died 10 times at this point. We're going to swap Oleander in, because Oleander takes negative... not very effective damage It's not called negative damage from Razor Shell. Toxic is stacking up, and we can hit it with a Sludge Bomb to KO. The island Kahuna Nanu is up next, and he leads Sableye, and I lead Monk's Hood. Anticipating a fake out here, I go for Baneful Bunker, and we get hit with a fake out. This poisons the Sableye. Anticipating a full heal from Nanu, I go for Toxic. Everything's working according to plan. It's great when the AI works the way you think it will. From here, we can just go for Venoshock, which is going to do massive damage and crit. Shadow Ball doesn't do much to us. The special defense drop is very annoying, but we can two-shot the Sableye. Nanu then pulls a sneaky quick one on us, swapping out Sableye, bringing in Krokorok. The Intimidate doesn't matter, and we do some chip with a critical hit Venoshock there. I am going to pivot into Zelbat, our only immunity to ground types, as it's going for an Earthquake. Very nice. We also have Acrobatics, which one-shots, because we don't have a held item, and it is double powered. Sableye is going to go for Fake Out, but we have Inner Focus, so we can KO it with an Acrobatics, and his last Pokemon is a Alolan Persian. It too is going to go for Fake Out, but again, Inner Focus. We can't two-shot this thing with Acrobatics, so we're going to need to pivot, as it's going to go for Power Gem. And we just pivot into Monk's Hood, which is just an insane Pokemon at this point. I love this thing. I've never used it, so glad I get to use it here. We're just doing some stall tactics, as I figured it was going to go for its Z move, Black Hole Eclipse. It's still going to do some damage despite the Protect, but not a lot. From here, we need to poison this thing and then do as much damage as we can. Unfortunately, Dark Pulse does a decent amount of damage. We do get the poison. Again, no risk, no reward, so I click Venoshock, but we do get outsped and hit with a Dark Pulse that flinches us. Alright, no more Mr. Nice Guy. It's time to bring out Ivy, who can tank the Power Gems and the Dark Pulses much better than anybody else can, and we can take this Pokemon out. We do use Gunk Shot. I didn't need Gunk Shot, but Gunk Shot takes this Pokemon out after a Power Gem nonetheless. There's still a lot of gameplay left, but we've gone through a lot of gameplay, and now we're at the Aether Paradise before we can finally pick up the TM for Toxic, the other half of the poison stall tactics that we could have used a heck of a lot sooner. It's time to take on Guzma in the Aether Paradise, and I have a completely different strategy now that we have Acrobatics. Zelbat leads and hits an Acrobatics to activate Golisopod's emergency exit. This brings out Pinsir with Stone Edge, but we can actually outspeed and one-shot with Acrobatics. Beautiful. His next Pokemon that is going to come out, of course, is the Vikavolt. Vikavolt is very dangerous for Zelbat to deal with, so we're going to have to swap around. Sludge Wave is a much better option than Sludge Bomb, so we teach that to Oleander, and we swap as the Vikavolt comes out into Ivy. Ivy can tank these attacks much better, but we get paralyzed turn 1. That's a little bit annoying. We can still tank the Bug Buzz, risk a crit there, and get off a Fire Punch down to about half. We do also poison it with Poison Touch, which is awesome. What I can do here, though, is I can swap in Ivy. It should be going for Bug Buzz, so we swap in on a very weak attack, and now we can KO this thing with a Flamethrower, and Nightshade can do what it does best, KOing the rest of the team. Vikavolt goes down to a stab, super effective Flamethrower. Despite Golisopod being part water type, it is part bug type, so a neutral Flamethrower from the health that is at is going to KO it. And then the last Pokemon is going to be Masquerain. That has been a problem every time we've battled Guzma, but at this point I outspeed, I have stab super effective Flamethrower, so we one-shot. Very, very nice. So next up is the boss of the Aether Paradise, President Lusamine, and her Pokemon. You never know what's going to go on. A charm from the non-normal type Clefable is the most annoying thing it can do to us. It has Psychic, so that's why we led with Ivy, and we have to two-shot it. With Gunk Shot, I figured it would go for Moonblast turn 1, but I was wrong. After the Clefable goes down, it's anybody's guess which Pokemon comes out next, and she sends out Melodic. Why? I have no idea. All I know is we're going to swap into Oleander to tank the Icy Winds or potential Hydro Pumps better. It's going for Dragon Pulse. Okay, whatever, man. We're going to go for Sludge Wave to do maximum damage, And it does a decent amount of damage, looking to be about a 4-shot, and then Melodic goes for Icy Wind. Why? Why? Why, Lusamine? It makes entirely no sense of what happens here. Icy Wind all the way to Melodic's downfall. Yep. I couldn't tell you what the hell's happening. I don't understand it. It makes this battle very, very difficult to plan for. Now, as the Beware comes out, I thought nothing of this either. Okay, we'll just stay in. We'll go for a Sludge Wave. We'll see what happens. Sludge Wave does massive damage because of a crit. It also poisons. And then Zen Headbutt. I didn't even know it had Zen Headbutt. I didn't look because this is such an erratic battle. I should have looked. It's never used it in any of my other runs. So we have the second death of the run with Oleander going down. Zelbat can come out and avenge its fallen friend, and then Lopunny comes out that has Dizzy Punch, Thunder Punch, Ice Punch, and Fire Punch. Which one is it going to go for? Well, you would think Ice Punch or Thunder Punch. So what's the best option here? Well, let's swap into Monk's Hood, hoping it's going for Ice Punch, but no, it's going for Fire Punch. Of course it is. Makes perfect sense to me. Then it hits us with an Ice Punch that gets a freeze. Okay, why not? Ice Punch on a water type. Makes sense. I'm just going to keep clicking Toxic. It goes for Thunder Punch, which is the right move, Lusamine. Saw the super effective. That means you should keep using it. Then she hits us with a Fire Punch to thaw us out so we can Toxic the Lopunny. I'm being facetious here in this entire battle, but it does make things very different from a Nuzlocke perspective for me to plan for something like this when she's not going for anything that makes sense. Her Lopunny is just going for any random move, and we can do our setup strats to get this thing poisoned, get hit with a Fire Punch that doesn't do anything, and then hit this thing with a nasty Venoshock to take it pretty low, to the point where poison damage is going to take it out. Bye-bye, Lopunny. Lusamine, you are such a pain. Our last Pokemon is Lilligant. This Pokemon goes for Petal Dance. That makes sense. That's what's supposed to happen. We fire off a Toxic, and now it's locked into Petal Dance. We need a swap. What better Pokemon to bring out than Nightshade with Stab super effective Fire-type moves, and we can't be confused because it can't use Teeter Dance because it's locked in, so we can take it out. See, we can plan for things when things go the way they're supposed to. Anyway, let's on with the next challenge. At least Oak will no longer be lonely in the box. Oleander, keep our fallen friend company. Going to miss you both. Next up is the Totem Kommo-o, and this is a decent battle to plan around. Couple of Dragon-type Pokemon. We should have a fairly easy battle. We lead, of course, with Monk's Hood once again to do what it does best, Poison Stall. I go for Toxic turn 1, and I didn't realize the Kommo-o had Thunder Punch. Okay, we can work with that though. We poison it, and it of course calls its ally Pokemon, Noivern. Now Noivern is a little bit scary, but the double up shouldn't be that difficult for us to handle. As a matter of fact, we'll just go for Baneful Bunker turn 2 to get a little bit more chip damage from Kommo-o. The Boom Burst is not a contact move, and neither is Screech, so yeah, Noivern stays unpoisoned. Now coming off of the Lusamine battle, I got a little aggressive in this battle. Instead of switching out, I tank the Thunder Punch, which did a lot of damage, and then I tank the Boom Burst on 8 HP. Should have swapped. But we do decent damage with Venoshock, and we can stay in and burn another turn with Baneful Bunker. I was just getting a little aggressive here as I was pissed off about Oleander falling in battle. It's not a Pokemon I wanted to lose, and Lusamine is such a pain. After we stall out one more turn, getting the Kommo-o into low red health, we are going to swap into Ivy, which is a powerhouse of a Pokemon. We swap into a Thunder Punch, which does very minimal damage, and then a Boom Burst that also does pretty minimal damage. Kommo-o then falls to the poison damage, and it's a 1v1. Noivern is going to outspeed us because it is a very fast Pokemon, but we can survive a Boom Burst even if it crits. It opts to go for Screech. We taught Ice Punch specifically for this battle to one-shot the Noivern. Look at Ivy go. Now, I typically never show this, but going through the wormholes, I have my cursor showing on the right-hand screen. If you right-click on the mouse and then go opposite the way you're trying to go, so left is right, right is left, up is down is up, you can do this without the tilt controls. I'm not very good at this, but it can be done. The thing that we're looking for is the white wormhole, so we want to stay away from the greens and the yellows and the blues and the reds. We want to find the white one and try to avoid all the other things altogether. Sometimes it doesn't work out so well, but we do make our way through this wormhole adventure with relative ease. This would probably be a lot easier with the 3DS, but it is completely doable. Ultimately, we find ourselves the white wormhole, and we go through it to progress the storyline, which requires us, of course, to take on Necrozma, and Ultra Necrozma is at level 60, our level cap is level 54. We still have a bunch of stuff to do before we get to that trial where the level cap is 54, so we're going to take a Photon Geyser with a Focus Sash on Monk's Hood. We're going to poison the Ultra Necrozma with Toxic. This is typical strategy here. And then we are going to Baneful Bunker, protect for a turn so it gets a little bit of toxic damage. And then Ivy, once again proving how great of a Pokemon it is going to swap in on an immunity to the Photon Geyser. From here, it's the only time I'm going to use the Z move in the entire run. We're going to go for a Black Hole Eclipse off of a Stab super effective Crunch. We had to tank a Dragon Pulse there. I forgot about that. We are a very slow Pokemon. But no matter with the chip damage from Toxic, we can KO this Pokemon. No cheeky Endeavor strats here. Just Toxic stall with Poison Pokemon. After defeating Ultra Necrozma, these two gift us a Poipole that I normally never take. It is a pure Poison type Pokemon, so why not add it to the team? Thank you. We nickname it Foxglove, and it has a quirky neutral nature. Awesome. This is a Pokemon I've never played with, so I'm very excited to see what it can do. It's level 40, needs some EV training, and I probably need to look up a little bit of a move list. For Captain Mina's trial, we have to run around to the other islands and collect the different flower petals and rematch some of the captains throughout. Remember Captain Lima? The reason we're on attempt number 2? Yeah, here's a rematch. We can two-shot the Gumshoes with a Brick Break that is super effective that Ivy can learn. Grimer cannot learn it. It's a little bit annoying. We could one-shot the Smeargle here, but I'm a little bit worried about the Kamala in the back, so we're going to swap into Monk's Hood. We get hit with an extreme speed that does very minimal damage, and from here we're going to do what Monk's Hood does best. Tank moves and Poison Stall. Toxic poisons it. We got hit with a couple of extreme speeds. It only has 5 power points, so we should be able to stall him out if we really wanted to. Recovering back up to full health before we hit a Baneful Bunker just to burn a turn. This does get very repetitive and very old very fast, but it is a tried and true method. Extreme speed number 5 hits us and Venoshock takes out the Smeargle. That was a nice showing from Monk's Hood, and now Kamala comes out. With Comatose, I believe this thing's in a permanent sleep state, so we can't actually poison it. So I'm just going to stall it the best I can. I was hoping to stall out the Z move, Breakneck Blitz, but it went for Woodhammer, then Breakneck Blitz. Ugh, we still survive it though. My goodness, the amount of critical hits that we've avoided in this game, or in this run rather, has been absolutely insane. Also, Lima, I really hate you right now. Woodhammer is doing some chip back to Kamala, so we could play around with that, but I really am just wasting turns here to burn as many of its power points as we can. Slam misses, and Venoshock unfortunately does pitiful damage without the Toxic behind it. So we tank the Slam, and I guess we're really just going to need to buckle in tight and go for recover, go for baneful bunker when we need to recover some health, and just let the Woodhammer chip damage and Venoshock do its job. We're not poison stalling, but we're still sapping this Pokemon slowly. Very, very long process. I told you I love poison types. I do love the strategy that comes with this, but sometimes it is very long-winded. What's not long-winded is after we get back to Captain Mina's house, we have a totem battle with Totem Rabombi. From here, it goes for Quiver Dance, and we can hit it with a stab super effective Gunk Shot, not quite one-shotting it. Blissey then comes in as its ally Pokemon. It goes for a Bug Buzz that does a decent amount of damage. Ooh, would have KO'd if it had crit, but we take it out with another Gunk Shot, and Heal Pulse doesn't do anything. Yeah, as a matter of fact, Blissey really can't do much, and we still have Brick Break, so good night. The Island Kahuna Hapu and her ground types are very scary for my team to deal with. You'll see that Hogweed is on the team, fully evolved into a Garbodor as a matter of fact. Sumac was up front to get the Intimidate drop, and we pivot into Zelbat to avoid the Earthquake. We get off a Toxic before Golurk sets up the Stealth Rock. Hapu has a full heal, so I go for another Toxic. Everything's going perfectly according to plan, and we can poison the Golurk. Now I'm going to switch up for Acrobatics, but unfortunately I have a held item for this battle, so it's not doing a lot of damage. We could have taught Zelbat Shadow Ball, but our special attack is abysmal. We could have taught it Payback, but again, Golurk's defense is great. So we're just going to stall this thing out. Now, as Hapu goes for a Hyper Potion, I go for a Roost to get back some health of my own. I have to keep Zelbat healthy as it is my only immunity to her Ground-type Pokemon. We do some more damage with Acrobatics, get hit with another Shadow Punch, before Golurk finally goes down to Poison. Gastrodon is going to come out next, and this Pokemon is also very bulky, so I need to switch around and do some different things. I swap into Hogsweed to tank a Muddy Water, which gets a critical hit to 12 HP. The whole reason this Pokemon was on the team was to set up Toxic against the Gastrodon, because Zelbat just can't be out here tanking these Muddy Waters. Unfortunately, Hogweed had to be sacrificed. Like I said before, I don't take this lightly. It's the only strategy I could see that would preserve the team. From here, we swap into Nightshade, which may seem a little bit weird, but all I'm doing is coming in to get off a Protect to delay some turns for some more toxic damage. I was also hoping to bait in a Muddy Water, as it should be stronger than Mud Bomb. So I don't really know what's happening as we swap into Monk's Hood on a Mud Bomb. But we avoid it on the swap in, which is great. Again, Toxic is stacking up. From here, it's Poison Stall tactics. Mud Bomb does a decent amount of damage. I actually go for Venoshock to see what kind of damage output it does. Not a lot. Should have just went for the Recover or the Protect. Ultimately, Gastrodon starts going for Recover, so that's throwing a damper in my plans here. We can just recover, both of us. And that's what I ultimately decide to do. Mud Bomb takes us to 6 HP. Well, there goes that plan. No recover from Gastrodon, so it does go down though, luckily. But there are still 2 more Pokemon. And the Mudsdale is the next one. Now it has a Ground-type Z move that it likes to go for, so I'm going to immediately swap into Zelbat and keep my fingers crossed. Perfect. Gosh, sometimes they don't go for those, and you just never know. Z move, gone. Now, Mudsdale, like Gastrodon before it, can actually do some damage with Heavy Slam. That was the move I was thinking of, and Payback. We get taken to 6 HP before our leftovers heal us up. And I don't have a choice. I have to risk crits here. So it's a Roost. It's a Payback, thankfully, down to 23 HP. That was an extremely high roll. It's a Roost once again, and we get another Payback. Heavy Slam would have probably KO'd us. I have to risk it. I have no other choice. I have to get this Pokemon as low as possible before I swap. I'm going to swap into Sumac to get off an Intimidate, hoping that we tank less damage from moves like Payback, which we tank very nicely, and a pivot into Zelbat, as it's specifically going to go for a Ground-type move, and we have the immunity. We can then gain a little bit of health back. I forgot about the stealth rocks, but no matter. Never punished. Roost heals us up. We get hit with a weaker payback, and now we're starting to heal some health as the Mudsdale goes down. The last Pokemon is Flygon. Once again, we're immune to everything but Dragon Pulse? No, Dragon Breath, which could paralyze us. So if we get paralyzed, things could get dangerous, but we're just going to go for Roost after a Toxic. We have 5 Roosts to get through this battle. We should be able to do it. Hapu is out of potions. Even if we get paralyzed, as long as we just keep clicking Roost, we should be fine. A critical hit would have ended all of this. I would have wiped right here easily. And I don't know that we would have made it back here in time to finish this run because this took a while. I don't know if you can tell in my voice, but I'm very, very tired at this point. I'm doing this very late night. Anyway, we do get paralyzed, but we stay healthy with Roost, and ultimately the Flygon does go down from toxic damage, and that is the end of our island challenge. We only have a couple more things standing in the way before we take on the Elite Four and finish this challenge in its entirety. Can we do it with the remaining Pokemon we have? I think so. Gladion is the last thing standing in our way before the Elite Four. He's got a decent team, and his Crobat with acrobatics is pretty nasty. I wanted a sticky barb for a strategy here to where we could get that item to stick to it, and then acrobatics will be cut in half, but that is not available until post-game. No matter, we tank an acrobatics and hit a rock slide that doesn't KO. Acrobatics doesn't crit, so it doesn't KO on our end, and we can swap into Ivy, who can tank the acrobatics much nicer, and can learn rock slide. So after a second acrobatics, the Crobat goes down to a rock slide. I had a strategy here, but unfortunately it didn't work out. What we see next is Lucario, but this isn't Lucario, this is Zoroark. Even though my moveset says it's not, the Hyper Voice confirms that it is, and a Gunk Shot from Ivy easily one-shots. Very nice. The next Pokemon that comes out is Silvally, and Silvally is going to go down like a lot of Pokemon before it, where we use Poison Stall tactics. We're going to swap into Monk's Hood, and rather than you guys getting to sit through 3 minutes of me stalling this Pokemon out, you're just going to see that it goes down to Toxic Stalls. His last Pokemon is Lucario, and I really am not scared of this Pokemon. We are going to swap into Nightshade. It's going to go for a quick attack. That's fine. And we have Stab Super Effective Flamethrower at this point, so we can easily take out the Lucario and make our way to the Elite Four. In the Pokemon Center, just before entering the Elite Four, there is a move reminder with a heart scale. You can teach Poipole here, Dragon Pulse, gain it a level, and it will evolve into a new Pokemon. It was at level 56, just barely made the cap. Naganadel? I think is how you pronounce that. That may be incorrect. I don't know. I've never seen this Pokemon. I had to do a lot of research, and everything I'm going off of is what I've seen. Now it goes from being a pure poison type to a poison dragon type, which I thought was very interesting. We do have access to get to Dragalge, which is a island scan Pokemon, but again, as I said at the beginning of the video, I don't really want to do the island scans. I figured Molayne and his steel types with the immunity to poison types would be our biggest threat, so I take them on first. Prankster on Klefki is a little bit annoying, so we get tagged with a Thunder Wave, but I had a held Cherry Berry just for that. A Stab Super Effective Flamethrower takes it out and baits in the Alolan Dugtrio. It has Earthquake and Fissure, but that doesn't matter, we outspeed in one shot. That's 2 in and 2 out, but as the Metagross comes out, I can't stay in. It's going to go for a Psychic type move in Zen Headbutt, so I swap into Ivy on the immunity. From here we can fire off Crunches. We should be able to 2-shot the Metagross. If both of the Meteor Mashes got critical hits, then we would have lost Ivy here, but both of them missed, so that's best case scenario. Magnezone is a little bit scary. It goes for a Screech, which doesn't make sense because its attacking moves are Flash Cannon and Thunderbolt. Both are special. And we're just going to hit this thing with some Fire Punches. Unfortunately, we put it into healing range, so Molayne uses a full restore. And then we take this thing low with some Fire Punches, but we take too much damage from Thunderbolt, risking a critical hit here, never punished, and we can't take the Magnezone out. So what I need to do is risk another critical hit by bringing Nightshade back in. Hopefully we tank the Thunderbolt. Yes, we do on 34 HP, and then we can fire off a Flamethrower to knock it out. His last Pokemon is a Bisharp. Again, very weak to fire. We outspeed, and we one-shot with a Stab super effective Flamethrower. Now, Olivia and her Rock-type team is up next, and it is definitely upgraded from the last time we battled her. Sumac leads out with an Intimidate, and 2 Aqua Tails is going to take out the Armaldo. We do take a Crush Claw, does not get the defense drop, and we don't miss with Aqua Tail, so that's a really good start. Probopass comes out next, and it is very scary with Earth Power, but it likes to go for the speed advantage, going for Thunder Wave. We have a held Cherry Berry, just like last time, and so we still have the speed advantage and can take out the Probopass with 1 more Bulldoze. It's nice to actually have the AI do what you think it's going to do. Now Gigalith comes out and sets up the Sandstream, so its special defense is upped, and here's where things get a little dicey. We got to swap into Monk's Hood on a Stone Edge that misses, and we need to waste the power points of Stone Edge on this thing. We're going to do some power point stalling throughout this battle. We set up a Toxic to get the Gigalith on a timer, and it hits us with a Bulldoze. Now that it has the speed advantage, it should never go for that. The AI does not like going for speed lowering moves once it has the speed advantage. So we're just going to go for Recover, Baneful Bunker, and we're going to wear out its Stone Edge turns. Hopefully. That's the plan when we came into this battle. Stall tactics is never great, and it doesn't make for good entertainment, but I'm going to leave it in because I know some of you are going to enjoy it. Another Stone Edge takes us low, and we go for Recover. I believe that is the 3rd one. As the Sandstorm subsides, we're sitting at almost full health. And rather than wasting all of the power points, the 5th one gets a crit, and we take it out with a combination of Venoshock and Poison Chip damage. Very nice. She has 2 more Pokemon, and I have 3 minutes of battle left, and this is with speed up. The Lycanroc is going to go for the Continental Crush Z move off of Stone Edge, so we went for Baneful Bunker to survive it a lot better. It does very minimal damage, and once we stall this thing out of Stone Edge, we can actually swap in some other Pokemon that are a little more weak to the rock, like Nightshade and Zelbat. Sumac comes in on what I thought would be a nice Intimidate drop, but we risked a crit there, the 2nd Stone Edge, and so it's going to be out to Ivy here, who should be able to tank them just a little bit better. We come in on a Stone Edge that does pitiful damage, and then we go for a Crunch. Of course, we're outsped and hit with a critical hit Stone Edge, so we don't get to do that much damage, but that was the 4th one. We need to swap one more time, and what better Pokemon to bring in than Foxglove in its debut battle. It survives a Stone Edge, and fires off a nasty little Toxic. Now Olivia has a full heal, I know that, so after a Rock Climb, I know for sure she's going to go for it, so we can use that to our advantage to have a swap in or go for Toxic. I went back and forth with it for just a second, but ultimately decided to swap in Nightshade. Seems a little odd, but it is one of the faster Pokemon that we have. So as she goes for a full heal, we get a nice clean swap in, and then we can set up another Toxic. We also have very good special attack on this Pokemon, so we'll tank the Rock Climbs no problem, and then we can fire off Venoshocks that is going to keep the Lycanroc out of healing range after the poison damage. We also avoid the counter, which is really, really nice, and all she has left is a Credilli. Credilli does have Rock Tomb, so things can get a little dicey here, but once again, we're going to poison this thing and try to hit it with a Venoshock. It goes for a Stealth Rock setup, so now we're going to take a little bit of chip as we swap our Pokemon around if we need to, and then Venoshock does massive damage, but we get hit with massive damage from a Rock Tomb, almost taking us out. Don't know if we have the speed advantage here, so I need to swap, but into what? Zelbat can't come in on a Rock Tomb. Most of the team is hurt. I think Monk's Hood is the only Pokemon I have that can tank the damage, but only just. Again, risking a critical hit, never punished. Full restore here, so we're going to heal up with recover. I was trying to keep the full restores to a minimum. Sometimes it doesn't work out. But here we can go for a Baneful Bunker just to stall this thing out of turns. See what it was going for. A neutral energy ball is actually perfectly fine. We tank them very nicely, and we can fire off a Toxic. We're not going to do as much damage with Monk's Hood and Venoshock, even though we get critical hits, because our special attack is not as good. We did EV train in special attack, defense, and special defense, kind of spread it out pretty evenly amongst the three. Thought that was the best way to go. But ultimately, we do take down the Credilli after a couple of energy balls take us decently low. We're never in any real danger after we healed back up, but the Credilli goes down. I decide to take on Kahili next in her flying types. She leads a Braviary and I lead Monk's Hood. I figured this Pokemon's going to go for a Brave Bird, so I go for Baneful Bunker, and that is exactly what happens, so it gets poisoned. Between the poison chip and recoil damage from Brave Bird, as well as Venoshock eventually, we should be able to take this Pokemon out with relative ease, unless it gets a critical hit, and hopefully steer clear of any full restores. We just gotta stall this Pokemon out. It's what poison types do, as we've said many times. We're going to tank the Brave Bird here at this point, because we're at full health. It does half. Okay. And then Venoshock combined with the recoil takes out the Braviary. Mandibuzz is out next. It also has Brave Bird. Figured it was going for the same exact strategies, but it's going for Flatter. Flatter is a lot like Swagger, where it boosts your attack, special attack in this occasion, and confuses you. There's that Brave Bird. Doesn't matter, we still get off the Toxic, and we're going to go for the exact same strats. Let Brave Bird do some chip, let Toxic do some chip, Venoshock when we need it. Unfortunately for us, after we avoid the Brave Bird, Mandibuzz does connect with a Flatter. I have leftovers on, not a berry, but I'm sitting at decent health, even with the damage that this Pokemon can do. And we connect with a recover instead of hurting ourselves in confusion. We can kind of risk it since our special attack has been raised 2 stages. That's a critical hit Brave Bird there, and we break through to connect with a Venoshock that KOs. With Merciless, it always gets a critical hit, so that was a very nice 2 in and 2 out relatively quickly. Now here's where things go a little bit south as Toucannon goes for a Screech, lowering our defense, and we hurt ourselves in confusion. Not wanting to lose this Pokemon at this point in the run, I need to swap. But honestly, into what? This Pokemon hits decently hard, as we see here swapping into Sumac. We get hit with a Beak Blast that takes us to 57 HP. Sumac now has to be swapped out. I said that the entire playthrough in my head. I would call it Sumac and then go Sumac. I don't know why. It's the way you say poisonous Sumac. Doesn't matter. It's late. I'm tired. Please just ignore the ramblings. A Supersonic Sky Strike hits Zelbat for massive damage to 39 HP as we tried to swap it in. I can do a little bit of chip here with U-turn, but we get burned in the process from Beak Blast, and I'm really running out of options of what to do here. Nightshade is not very defensively bulky, so we swap into a, once again, nasty Beak Blast. I thought about going for Flamethrower for just a second, but I can't. I need to bring in one of these other 3 Pokemon and ultimately decide to bring in Foxglove. Hasn't seen much here in the Elite Four. We tank a Beak Blast, and then I just click A on Sludge Wave. Why not? Let's see what happens. We get a crit to KO, and I don't know that that crit was needed, but we get the Beast Boost to our special attack. So, as the Oricorio comes out, we hit another Sludge Wave, which is Stab, +1 to special attack, KOs, +2 to special attack before her last Pokemon, Hawlucha, comes out. Okay, that is awesome. We can hit this 95 base powered Sludge Wave that is Stab to one-shot with the +2 to special attack, and that was a pretty good showing. Last up for the Elite Four is Acerola and her Ghost types. She leads Banette, and I lead Ivy. We do get hit with a Shadow Claw because we're outsped, but we can one-shot this thing with a Stab super effective Crunch. This brings out Palisand. I don't have anything I can really swap into this Pokemon. Zelbat can't do that much damage, so we have to risk a critical hit Earth Power, and we survive on 17 HP. From here, we can KO this thing with one more crunch. Thank you, Ivy. You have been absolutely phenomenal through the entire run. Frostlass comes out and threatens with Blizzard, so that's an easy choice. Swap into Nightshade. We get hit with the aforementioned Blizzard and get frozen. Well, the only thing I'm going to do is keep clicking Flamethrower until I can't anymore. We get confused, which is very annoying. Frozen, confused. Luckily, we do thaw out and break through confusion to KO the Frostlass with a Flamethrower. Delmise comes out next, and it's part Grass type, part Ghost type. So I figure, why not? We're sitting at pretty decent health. Let's risk it. We click A on Flamethrower. Never punished. We one-shot. Our last Pokemon is a Drifblim. I don't really want to stay in against this Pokemon. I don't have good moves against it, and figured why not give Sumac one more chance. We swap into an Ominous Wind that we tank very nicely. The Intimidate from us did not matter. And Rock Slide doesn't quite do half. I think I forgot to put the Expert Belt back on. Amnesia is what it is. Poison Jab for some chip to keep it out of healing range. Another Ominous Wind of 54 HP, and a Rock Slide connects to take out the Drifblim. The final battle of the region is the battle against Hao. This is to determine the champion of the Alola region. He leads with an Alolan Raichu, and I lead with Ivy. It does get off a Thunderbolt, and luckily we don't get paralyzed, so we can one-shot it with a Stab super effective Crunch. Now as the Tauros comes out, this is where things get a little bit dicey. See, it has Earthquake. It also has Double Edge, which is Stab. So things can get a little bit crazy and we have to risk a crit. Swap into Zelbat to avoid the Earthquake. This is where we have to risk the crit going for Toxic to put this thing on a timer, and then tank a Double Edge, which we do with 45 HP left to spare. From here, I'm going to swap into Sumac to get off an Intimidate. We are going to tank hopefully a Double Edge. Again, it does a lot of damage despite the -1 to attack. And we're going to pivot right back into Zelbat on what should be an Earthquake. This does set us up as Tauros is going to get to lower health, but not quite KO'd. So our rival is going to heal it with a full restore. This means we can fire off a Toxic to re-poison it. Stall strats. This battle was over 7 minutes long, and it's sped up. That's sped up time. I'm going to swap back into Ivy, who should be able to tank the Double Edge much nicer, which we do. Again, still doing massive damage. It's Stab after all. Baiting in another Earthquake, we're going to go ahead and Protect just to drain a turn. Taught that over Rock Slide, and then we're going to pivot into Zelbat to waste another turn. Very, very good. We're dead here to any move, so all of these moves are very shaky and very iffy, but I do swap into Monk's Hood right here at the end, tank a Double Edge, recover a little bit of health with leftovers, and Tauros goes down. Okay, that wasn't so bad. Crabominable is up next. It has Stone Edge, probably one of its bigger moves that deals with a lot of Pokemon on my team. So we need to stall it out of power points. It's trying to go for Power Up Punch to boost its attack, but then it does switch up to the Stone Edge. Critical hit. Venoshock actually does massive damage, so maybe I need to change my strategy on the fly here. A full restore is annoying, but we can go for a free recover, getting ourselves back up to almost full health before our leftovers gets us to full health. A Baneful Bunker means a Stone Edge misses, but Stone Edge doesn't count as a contact move, so it's not going to get poisoned. We're just going to stall this thing out. It's the best option that we have since it's going for that and not Power Up Punch. There's the 4th Stone Edge, one more, and we should be able to bring in another Pokemon to deal with this thing like Zelbat. We're sitting at full health. This thing has no more Stone Edges, so we're going to swap into Nightshade on an Ice Hammer. Yep. Right as I clicked which Pokemon I wanted to swap out, I remembered it had that, so I'm glad I didn't bring out Zelbat. Flamethrower one-shots the Crabominable, and out next for Hao is going to be Vaporeon, a Pokemon I actually completely forgot he had. Okay, so now we're going to have to do this one on the fly, swapping into Zelbat on a Hydro Pump that KOs because I misclicked. I meant to bring in Monk's Hood. Uh-oh. Oh, no, 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 no. Baby Doll Eyes is fine. We don't have attack. We're going to Toxic this thing. We can stall it out. But I just lost Zelbat for no reason. I told you it's late when we were playing this, and so I was making some iffy calls here at the end of this run. Vaporeon does eventually go down, and we're sitting at full health as Decidueye comes out. He's got 2 more Pokemon. We've lost one. It's a little bit annoying. Ooh, a Bloom Doom off of Leaf Blade. It's neutral. It still does massive damage as we get off a Toxic. Whoops. I guess I could have swapped in Nightshade on that. That would have been the much better play here, but a lot of my team is getting low, and I'm in a little bit of a panic at this point. His last Pokemon is Noivern, and it outspeeds every Pokemon on my team. We swap in a Nightshade, tank the Leaf Blade on 26 HP, and from here, we can hit a Flamethrower that doesn't quite take out the Decidueye. So it takes us out, and then falls to poison damage. Oh no. Oh no. I don't even know what to do. Monk's Hood, you've got to take this thing down. Somehow, some way, you've got to tank this Dragon Pulse on 3 HP. Fire off a Toxic. Now we just got to stall it out. We can do this. We've done it 100 times before. Baneful Bunker. That's a free protect turn. We're gaining a little bit of health back with leftovers. We're on borrowed time right now, really. Let's be perfectly honest. 21 HP ain't going to be enough to do anything. Noivern hits a Dragon Pulse to knock out Monk's Hood. That is 3 Pokemon down, 3 left, and he outspeeds every single one of my Pokemon. Sumac comes in for the Intimidate, which does not matter. It is a special type Pokemon. It outspeeds to hit us with a Dark Pulse to knock us out. Poison damage takes it to half, and Ivy's going to come in. I think we can survive a Dragon Pulse from this thing, but we go for Protect. Just to fish a little bit, gain a little bit with leftovers, see what's going on. This was a bad play. Hal uses a full restore. See how much Gunk Shot does? See what happens? I should have just went for Gunk Shot. Do you see how much Gunk Shot does? There's another full restore. I went for Protect because I didn't know he was going to go for another full restore. Should have just went for Gunk Shot. We are gaining health, but we're back down to 50 HP after a Dragon Pulse, and we get a clutch critical hit to knock out the Noivern. Jeez. That critical hit Gunk Shot from Ivy was the game changer. If we had lost Ivy there, Foxglove did not have enough gas in the tank. We did not outspeed the Noivern, and we were dead to a single Dragon Pulse. So we almost wiped right here at the champion. Ivy, MVP by far. This was an amazing run, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed every moment of it, though we had 7 deaths. Things didn't go entirely my way, but Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon are very hard games to Nuzlocke. Certain battles that we have are hard to work around. These Pokemon weren't the best as far as heavy hitting, but I think we played to our strengths and did enough toxic stalling, poison stalling to get us through the run. Obviously, we are now the champions of the Alola region. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, you know the routine. Leave a like, leave a comment, consider subscribing if you've made it this far. Once again, thank you all to the channel members and each and every one of you that keep coming back each and every week, pushing us over that 5K mark. This is a dream come true, and I can really see this thing going forward. And I couldn't do that without you guys, so thank you once again. As always, thank you so much, and I will see you on the next one.